Welcome back. Thank you for listening. So, I want to talk today about this concept that has been in my mind because I just came back from a trip. It's really cold. We had a blast, but coming back to Dallas last night and thinking about this made me. By the way, so this trip was in Utah. It's funny because it was 25 degrees when we were there, and we landed in Dallas. It was 30 degrees. It was a lot colder. I don't know why. I don't know if the mountains surround the wind or whatever. But so a lot of times in the business, I really don't. It's been 7 years that I've been doing the same thing, and I realize a lot of days I have excitement to get to work, and other days not so much. And the common denominator is that I still always show up. But one thing I remember learning um, early on, and I think it was a good reminder for me today because it's cold weather. Our guys work outside, and it's not as cold as if you're in the Northeast, but it's maybe 30 degrees, 20 degrees today. It's pretty cold for Texas, and every year Dallas goes through like a week or two of this crazy weather. And I noticed that there's people that just react to the weather and people that don't. And I want to be surrounded of people that don't. So let me explain. So the concept was being a thermometer or a thermostat. So as you can imagine, a thermometer reads the temperature in the room and it doesn't change it. So a person that acts or behaves or works like a thermometer would, conceptually speaking, is always going to be conditioned by the environment. So if the environment is full of people and there's a room full of happy people and it's sunny and nice outside and the attitude's great, and the person maybe comes from having a great week and they just got their tax money back and whatever, and they just had a good date night, then their behavior slash even work ethic is conditioned, or definitely their performance at work increases because the environment produces that. But also, the problem with that is that if the thermometer is low, meaning it's low, there's crazy weather, or I just had a bad day at home. And again, I think about thermometer not necessarily for weather, but and it is cold now, so that is what brought it up to my mind. But also like, hey, what is the environment that I'm in, right? You can plant the best seed in the world. That if you don't put it on good soil, it's not going to grow. If you just keep the seed in your pocket and you don't plant it, it's not going to grow. So I thought of that and I was like, you know what? So many more days. Everybody's very good at being a thermometer because it doesn't require any effort. You just have to blend in with the environment. So the only problem with that is that if you are trying to work outside, like in Dallas, and it's 25 degrees, and you don't have a strong sense of being a thermostat, then you're going to be conditioned by the weather and it's going to be pretty tough. Therefore, your results will always be inconsistent, and therefore you probably shouldn't pretend or try to run a business because it'll be, there's going to be ups and downs all the time. And I always pay attention to, and it's not something that happens to me organically, but I do have to force myself to get excited in times like this when I know the guys are going to go through a harder time because the weather and they have to be more thermostats. And personally, I'm not excited. I get out of the house today. I woke up at 4 in the morning and I was out of the house at 4:30 to go to the gym. And even just to walk to the gym, it's like freezing. I mean, it was 20 degrees. And I'm personally not excited. I have to force myself and remind myself that the weather does not determine, the quality of my life that day, and I shouldn't entertain that thought. And I force myself to be excited about meeting people today that are positive, because when it's sunny and 70 degrees in December in Dallas, you always meet positive people. Oh, great weather outside. Oh, this is awesome. And like it's an attitude contaging effect. But especially in work or in business, it's fun to see when conditions aren't the elite conditions that you can have, what is the reaction people have. So I remember this meeting that I heard years ago, and it was the thermometer versus the thermostat. And the difference is the thermostat determines the temperature in the room. And if you can imagine, when it's 20 degrees outside, the thermostat probably has to work a lot harder to get the room to 70 because it's fighting the outside environment. And that's sometimes a lot of the stuff that we do as leaders or as people in the workplace or in business or whatever it is that you're doing. The harder the environment is, or in this case, the colder the weather is, the harder the thermostat has to work to function. And I think that, again, for a leader, that's maybe if you're in recruiting or you have to pay attention to talent or you're working in sales or people in the growth environment, it's very important to have your team go through some sort of, low thermometer situations, because if they do not have a chance to prove that they can be a thermostat, then they'll never raise to upward positions in leadership. And I think today I was talking to the guys about that, and I was like, you know what? I'm not organically internally excited about it. I'm actually, I also want to like get a blanket and go home and just do nothing. But it doesn't work like that. And I look at today and I'm like, you know what? I'm excited because today, even though it might be a tougher day, it might be harder for some people. Babysitters might cancel on people that have children, and it's more challenging in general. But I'm excited to see the people that are thermostats. They're like, you know what? I'm not going to let like bad weather influence my day. I'm not going to let it make me smile less. I'm not going to let it lower my sales. I'm not going to let it hurt my closing ratio. I'm not going to let it bother me, because I am a thermostat. I will determine what my environment is today because I can influence the environment. And there's a lot less thermostats than there are thermometers. There's a lot less people that can influence and change a room. You ever feel that like the room energy changes when like a certain person goes in or a certain group is in or a certain person leaves? And that typically because that person is the thermostat, positive or negative. And in business, I think, one thing I'm challenged by every day, and just in life, is how can I be the person that walks into a room and I'm a positive thermostat? I can determine and set the temperature no matter what the vibe is in that room before, no matter if it's at your house with your family, or no matter if it's at work or wherever you're at. And if you're already in a leadership role and you're trying to, you're going through those battles, I would encourage you to like, hey, get excited for times when the thermometer's low, because it lets you see who's a real thermostat. There's only so much motivation you can do, only so much hooray you can do, that it's going to maybe increase sales or increase performance in some way. It's interesting to see if there's like, it's like if you're working out, it's interesting to work out and see if you can work out at the same level with no music and complete silence and no pre-workout and no caffeine and nothing, just you like raw. And I've done that once or twice. I don't know why. And it's different than like working out with the music, blasting in your ears with, caffeine or pre-workout. It's extremely different, but it really challenges you to see like to the core who you really are. And I think we have nowadays, with so much AI and so much stuff, there's fewer and fewer opportunities to find out, who people are at the core. And I think if there was some sort of interviewing or recruiting process that could figure that out quickly in a person, like life would just be so much easier. It just interviewing process, even relationships, it takes so many times, so many weeks and months and reviews and stuff, because really you're just trying to get to the core of the individual to see what it is that they would really do with absolutely zero incentives. And the only chance to figure that out is in days like for us today or this week, where again, the thermostat has to work really hard. So that's what I was thinking. That's what I have in mind. Hope that helps, and see you at the next one.